everybody. Just be careful. Deb's coming in hot. We don't need to get into the reasons why, but she came in. It was a spicy redhead today, and I was not prepared for it.
Josh he caught me in the middle of something as soon as we turned our Zoom on before we hit record, and I was in the middle of a friendly, I guess, debate with someone on my phone, and I was like, hang on, and he caught me in the middle of, he was caught in the crossfire.
I was watching from the side. I'm like, ooh, it felt like a boxing match, but I was only watching the one side throw punches. And so, yeah, good for you. Good for you, Deb. That's all I'm going to say.
Anyway,
fighting the good fight.
I don't care but anyway, we won't talk about it and get all fired up again.
Yeah, we won't talk about it because once Deb told me what the argument was, I'm like, yeah, that has no place on our podcast right now. So we'll skip that.
I know. Although I have no problem talking to anyone about it, but we'll talk about it later.
So a different episode. Yeah. That's not what we're doing today.
It's stupid. People all say it and they'll be like, that's what it was about. It's very dumb, but it's something that people can get very sensitive over. But I don't know. I guess that's a pet peeve of mine.
Let's just be honest. It was mermaids again. And this person said they don't exist, which we've been trying to tell her. And she was just not having it today. So usually she rolls with it. Not today. She's like, screw you. They're real. I've seen them. I am one. And so that's what it was about. So you guys don't have to let your imagination wander. That's all it is.
I had to provide some scientific evidence.
So there you go. So what's going on, Deb? It feels a little bit weird because this is back-to-back episodes where it's just you and me, no guests. And so usually we'll catch up, but I feel like we just talk. So do we really need to catch up? I don't know. You good?
I feel like that's what we did the whole last episode as we caught up. I'm good.
It was a weird episode. I'm not gonna lie. When I listen back to it, I'm like, maybe we shouldn't have recorded it. This is some bizarre conversation talking about haircuts for a very long time. I don't think we realized how long we talked about our haircuts and hair and all that stuff. It was a very long segment of the podcast. We don't need to do that ever again.
Well, we got it out of our system.
Sure.
It was like at the very beginning when we first started doing this years ago, and we sat down to record our first solo, and halfway through we looked at each other, we're like, we don't like this. Do you like this? I don't like this. Stop. Let's start over. And then we trashed a few of them. I think we're just at the point where we just hit record and go, and then you just drop it, and then we listen later, and then that's just what happens.
Well, we've joked before, at least I've joked before with people that have come on this podcast, especially over the last couple of months, where they've brought up the term imposter syndrome, and how they felt that at different points. And I've made the joke, you and I should probably feel a little bit more imposter syndrome every once in a while, because I think we've gotten too comfortable here. It's like, yeah, just turn the button on. We'll talk about something. I'm sure somebody's going to listen. Not that many people listen, but we still feel that way, regardless of what the numbers show. So, yeah, we have a good time, but yeah, we didn't have much to say last time. We kind of rolled with it. So, this time we have a mission. We're back with another pet peeve episode. This is number 4. Technically, it would be number 5 because we did a weird half pet peeve episode, but by the numbers, this is number 4. Last time we did this episode with my brother Jordan, which was a lot of fun. So, and I think I even mentioned on that episode, it's crazy because now I have a running list of pet peeves in my notes, because I'm like, I don't want to do these pet peeve episodes and then, double back, triple back on stuff that's still a pet peeve. So I've kept a list.
Me too.
And it's crazy because I have 19 pet peeves that I've said on this podcast, which is wild because at a certain point you're like, do I really have that many more pet peeves? And then something happens in the world during work, during just everyday life. It's like, you know what? I have probably about 10 more pet peeves that I can drop on this podcast. So the pet peeves just keep coming, and they probably seem a little bit silly sometimes, but for me, personally, it's a big pet peeve, and it may not be like a normal pet peeve, but for me, and I'm sure for you, these things drive me crazy. And sometimes I guess it just takes the podcast, us talking about it on the podcast, to really realize how much some of these things drive me crazy. But and at the end, like we put on social media today, this was your idea, putting it out there for the people to also share their pet peeves. We've got a couple. I have a few, you have a bunch, and we'll rattle those off at the very end of the podcast. But before we do that, we're gonna go through. I have 5 pet peeves. You have 5?
I have 5.
Okay. Yes. So we've got our own pet peeves. We're back with another pet peeve episode, a very popular episode that we do. So I'm
Gotta give,
excited. I always love pet peeve episodes.
gotta give the people what they want.
Yep. Because
So,
if we have to do something to keep them
yeah,
coming back because we're not doing a great job with our other content.
it's fitting that I was having a debate with someone on my phone about something.
It was
Like,
perfect timing.
I was like, what? Why is this happening now? Of course, right before our pet peeve episode.
There you go. So she may be a little bit more fired up than normal, everybody. So buckle up. Here she goes. You want to go first?
Here we go. Yeah, you want to go first? Is that, or did you ask me if I wanted to
I
go first?
I asked
Oh,
if you would.
I'll go.
Uh-oh. Not a
Oh,
good start. Not a good start.
right.
Okay, yes.
We have a
You can
great
go
start.
first. Partially because
Okay.
I'm terrified of if I don't let you go first, because I feel like you have some stuff on your chest. So go ahead.
I can't punch you through this screen. We're not in the same room. It's fine.
That makes it
Oh,
sound like you would normally punch me if we were in the same room, which doesn't happen. I'm not abused. That's what she
just
told me to say.
as he looks into the camera, he says,
Please
help.
help. I had to like hold up a sign. Help
So,
me.
yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. Well, so okay, my first one, okay, is road wrath. Not road rage, but road wrath. So I had a recent incident a few weeks ago, I think it was. Yes, a few weeks ago. So I legit almost got run off the road
Hmm,
by an old crazy cranky man. Um so and I get it, you can be cranky, and trust me, like I've yelled inside my car before, but I haven't purposefully tried to put someone's life in danger, right? I'm not talking about honking or like even flipping someone off. I'm talking about maneuvering your car so that I almost die. So um so I was out. I was like up in the Reno area, and I was following someone to a destination. I don't have anything on my Google Maps. I'm following another car. I have no idea where I am. And we're out in the boons, and we get to a roundabout. And so, because we're in a roundabout, a car kind of got stuck in between us, like in front of me, and it was a big truck. Like I have a car, a small little, 4-door. Like I could not see. I did not know where the other person was. I don't know. So I'm just like, ugh. So, and the truck was going relatively slow, right? And so I kind of moved to the side to see if I have clearing to go around them, because it was just, one lane each. And, the lines on, there's the dotted legal, whatever, trying doing everything correctly. And I
sure.
maneuver, and my person's way in front of him. It's like so far in front of him. And I'm like, great. Like, I was like, I could call them, but I'm just gonna go in front of this truck. I'd rather just be right next and behind them. Naturally, right? So I move over just to peek, and this truck moves out of the lane too and kind of blocks my vision. And I thought it was like a oopsie. I'm like, there's no way they did that on purpose to
Sure.
like block whatever. So I waited a few minutes, and I had a weird feeling, and I'm like, okay. And I look again, and I'm like, I need to go. So I did it again, and he kind of did it again too. And I'm like, what? And so finally, like, I looked, and there was a clearing, and my car's fast. So I stepped on it. And as I step on it, and this is a bigger truck, this truck, I guess, realizes that I'm going around him and in front of him. This truck pushes me and tries to get me to go off the road, like gets so close to my car.
Really?
Yes. And I look up, and it's this old man, and he's flipping me off. And I gunned it, like, and so I got in front of him, because I'm like, you can't, this is my car. You can't be Ariel. Okay. She's fast. Like, you can't, it's my car's name.
No, I
Almost
understood.
like,
Thank you.
you can't be, she's
Talk
super
about
fast.
yourself. Talk about yourself in third person. I'm
Yeah.
Ariel. Can't beat me.
Ariel left him in the dust. Okay. So when I caught up to my friend, but then we're kind of slowing down because we're getting to a traffic, like a residential area. Okay, this truck first is honking at me as I go in front of him. And there's plenty of, it's not like I went in front of him and like slammed on my brakes and cut him off. Like I've zoomed in front, like cleared him, whatever. He's honking. And as he gets closer to me, he gets right up on my car's butt, like right behind me, and is like flipping me off. And I end up like calling the person, and just disclaimer, it's the guy I'm seeing. I end up calling him, and I'm like, this crazy person is like, I'm kind of like afraid. And so what the guy in front of me does is he pulls over to the right, and I follow him just to let the truck go past us, because he's like, okay, let's just, but no, the truck follows us and parks in front of me, or not in front of me, behind me, and is still screaming. And so he gets out of his car, and I get out, and we kind of like, and the guy's like, she tried to cut me off. I think he was a little crazy, like legit, like.
You think so?
I don't
No, I'm just
know.
kidding. I assume he's crazy.
I don't know. He was like, and I looked at him and I was like, I can't see my person in front of me. That's why I got in front of you. I can't see behind your big truck. And he didn't say anything, and he just like was staring at us. And then we're like, okay, let's get out of here. So we get in our cars and we leave. But like, I don't know. I don't know what his deal was, but like that was
Sure.
freaking dangerous. So
A little bit, yeah.
but if you're like that angry to where you're gonna like run someone off the road, like you're crazy. So just, and that was like one of the times that I've been in it, but I've seen it too. Like I've seen it off in the distance. I've heard people talk about it. I'm just like, go ahead and have your own little road rage in your head and your car and whatever, and honk and do that. But do not try to murder someone. Like that's not cool. So anyway, there you go. Coming in hot for my first pet peeve.
I think it's a good, just a tagline for this episode. Don't try to murder people. It's not cool. So I think that would be a good way to describe this episode. No, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, I've seen that before too. It's not too long ago. It was pretty wild. Not nearly as, it wasn't dangerous like that, your situation, but this person just would not let up. And I think, I feel pretty confident in saying that that person's not all the way there. You know what I mean? Because it's one thing to get mad. It's another thing to continue to follow the person. It's like, your point's made. We could both just walk away from this thing scot-free, but you choose not to do that. That's wild to me.
He was like enraged. Like he acted like I cut him off and like made him slam on his brakes and like made him fly through his window. Like, I don't understand. Like, I passed you, I cleared you. You couldn't catch up to me until the very end. I don't like, it was wild. So
Man, yeah, scary for sure.
anyway.
All right. Well, how do we follow that? I have an issue with some certain types of group pictures. I'm gonna
Road off to group pictures. Love it.
Yeah. So I know some people don't like pictures. I know some people just can't stand having their picture taken. That's never been me. I've never had a problem with it. I love pictures. They're always fun to look back at with family and friends and all that stuff. I will say though, one thing that drives me crazy is if you have multiple people taking the picture and you have a bunch of people that are in the picture, and when no one coordinates which phone they need to look at first, when you take the picture, you see the picture later, you have 25 people looking in 25 different directions. Some people are looking at areas where there's no camera. It's like that person's not paying attention. And I'm like, we need to coordinate this thing. So if there's gonna be multiple phones, you need to say, okay, everybody look at this phone first. Good. Now everybody look at this phone first, because what happens is everybody looks cross-eyed and everybody looks crazy and no one's paying attention. And it's like, that's a good picture. It's not a good picture because no one's looking in the same direction. It looks wild to me. So anytime I see that, it drives me crazy. So usually when we're taking a picture, if I have some control over it and if I'm fairly close to the situation, I will say, okay, let's look at, especially with kids, like my kids, I'll tell them we're looking at this one camera. So that way, at the very least, even if the other people around me aren't looking at the right camera, at least my family of 4 is looking in the right direction. So it's like, we did our job. But other people, it's like, I don't know what we're doing. So that just drives me nuts. So if you're taking a group photo, just focus in on one camera. Tell everybody, it's like, hey, this is the phone. This is the camera that we're looking at. Lock in on that one, get a nice picture, and then get out of there. Don't just say, hey, smile, because everybody's going to be smiling in different directions. And they look like, never mind. I'm not going to say that, but they look crazy. They just look crazy. So that's all I got to say. Pet peeve of mine.
That is, that's very true. Looking at yeah, because it's like, I've been in that, group picture situations and taking them, being the one with the camera. And it's like, no one says, look here, everyone just says smile, and everyone just starts taking their own. Yeah. And then when I'm part of the group too, I'm also like, where are we looking? And then after a while, I'm just like, whatever. And I just smile and I try to look around all of it can get out of hand. Someone needs to.
Definitely gets out of hand. And especially they're like, there's one person wasn't looking. You're concerned about one person. No one's looking at the right direction. They're all looking everywhere else besides the one location that they should be looking. So that's my thing. So it's not dangerous. It's not life threatening, but that's my
Yeah.
pet peeve. That's my first one.
That's probably a more popular, annoying one. Mine is just, here's what happened to me. And that was
Yours was like, you ever get bothered when someone tries to kill you? Yeah, me too.
my pet peeve, don't when someone tries to kill me.
Yeah. You ever been in like a scene from Fast and the Furious? I don't like it either. So,
that man definitely thought he was in it. I don't know
but you're ready to go. You've been taking boxing classes. So I've seen the work.
I was ready to swing on that old man. I'm telling you, I was like, what is your problem?
If there's one thing that I don't doubt, it was that you were ready to fight the old man. I've known you for too long. I was waiting for the story to say, and then I punched him in the face. Like, all right. So actually, it was a little more surprising that you didn't.
I know it was. He had a woman in the car with him. I don't know if it was his wife or who. She seemed semi-embarrassed. She just kind of was like,
was she alive?
She was alive.
Was it just a body?
I mean, it could have been
just a corpse he's got there for the carpool lane. That's what it sounds like. So
he's just collecting bodies, just running people off the road, collecting bodies. That could have been me.
But not today, psychopath.
Hey, exactly.
All right, what's your next one?
Okay, they're less serious. They're not, no one. That was the murder serious one. So anyway,
we'll be the judge of that.
My second one is unsolicited advice regarding my profession or my area of expertise. And that's right. Isn't that, I feel like that's a pet peeve for most people. Like, I don't come into your job and tell you what to do when that's not my job.
Sure.
And honestly, not that anything like that has happened personally to me recently, but
you're ready if it does.
Ready if it does, but it has in the past. And I know that it has happened to people.
Sure.
And that is so annoying. I just posted something today. It was funny because it popped up and I'm like, this is perfect because this is going to be one of my pet peeves. And I posted something in it. Of course, I follow all these teacher memes, right?
Sure.
So I have to go back and find it and read it. So it says, people who have never been in a classroom trying to tell me how to do my job is like me saying, I understand how brain surgery works because I've watched Grey's Anatomy. And so sure. I thought that was funny. So, but yeah, it's, yeah, well, actually, I guess recently so I'm running, summer school's over, but I was, and I was, one of my jobs was I was kind of running like an open volleyball gym type camp in the afternoon. And it's not a required class, not credit recovery or anything. It's like enrichment, like kids can come up if they want to. It's just, they know it's from this time to this time. They can come and go as they please. I just got to sign them in to see, cause it's school still. So they want to see who's there.
Sure.
And I actually have kids there. And so, anyway, so a parent comes in and drops her daughter off. And I always kind of have a problem with parents, and these are high school kids, dropping their high school kid off and like kind of lingering and watching and like I'm all for.
That's the coaching you too.
Yeah. I'm like, go let your kid be socialized and you don't need to be here. Now, on the flip side, if it's a classroom situation and there's like a discipline issue and the parent needs to come in and monitor their kid, I'm all for it. Please come watch your kid in my class so you don't think I'm lying. Like, yes, but sure. Don't be a helicopter parent. Like, your kid's in high school. So anyway, and then she kind of sees how it's being run. And the way it's just open gym because I don't have, there's a lot of kids. I don't know who's going to show up that day. There's all kinds of skill level. So it's not run like a regular classroom, and I'm not
sure.
going because it's optional. Like, if I start telling kids what to do, they're going to leave. Sure. So I have it right. So it's, sure. I have it run a certain way. They don't have to be there. So the mom, like, all of a sudden she's like, yeah, I used to coach volleyball. And mind you, I don't even coach volleyball. I've played it. I teach PE. So I like seeing kids play and have fun. And so then she starts saying, like, why don't you get this going? Why aren't they? And I'm just like, oh my God, this mom needs to get away from me right now. Then I start to explain to her, I start to explain to her what I just told you. I'm like, there are so many, like, I had to sit there and explain my job to, and so anyway, it was just annoying. She starts rattling off all these ideas that I should do with this camp that I'm running that I have under control.
Sure.
So I'm like, I've been teaching for 10 years. And when I see this many, and so I start rattling stuff off and then she stopped talking. So anyway,
there you go.
But no one likes that. No one wants
Sure.
to have someone come in who clearly doesn't and start listing off all these ideas. Like no one anyway. So that's a pet peeve of mine for sure.
No, that's a good one.
But
Yeah, and I'm sure that most people are in that same boat. I don't know of anybody that's like, yeah, I really enjoy that when that happens. So I think you're right on with that one for sure. I think if people feel the same way, yeah,
right.
I've been there before for sure.
Yeah.
Now there's a good chance that whoever is talking to me probably knows more than I do, which I'm okay with. But you're clearly smarter in your area of expertise. So, um, but no, yeah, that's annoying for sure.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. That's mine. So anyway, a little more low key than the murder one, but go ahead.
This yeah, just a little bit could have ended in the same place if she kept talking, but it didn't, thankfully. So we're all good. Okay, so okay, so mine is you can make it. You can make the case. It's like kind of like a cousin of what you just said, a much lesser degree. But I I feel like this is one that I would have mentioned before, but I don't see it on my list. So I'm going to say it again. If I have said it, I don't think I have though. It's when someone in a conversation, you're having a conversation with someone. It's worse if you're not having a conversation with someone and that person jumps in and does this. But specifically, if you're having a conversation with someone and you mispronounce something or you have a small detail wrong, and that person feels the need to unnecessarily correct you over that small detail. It's like, well, it's actually pronounced da 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 da. Like, oh, I
Actually, the
actually
way
don't care. So that's weird that you would say that because you killed the flow of my story or this conversation because you felt the need to. I said tomato, you say it's tomato. That's what we're doing here. And it's like it drives me nuts when, especially when it's like a really small detail. Now, if I say, you know, I don't know, my friend Deb is a car mechanic. They're like, well, hold on, no, she's not. She's a PE teacher. That's different. That's a fairly big piece of the story. But if I happen, I'm not even joking when I say this, although I do it all the time. If I say, oh yeah, Deborah, my friend Deborah, and they're like, well, actually it's Deb. It's like, oh, is it really Deb? Just shut up. Like that was not so necessary. You needed to stop the conversation to correct this one tiny detail. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, my co-host, I don't know. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I'm even flustered now. It's like I hate when that happens. You know what I mean? If it's like a really important piece of the conversation that needs to be changed, for sure, change it, correct it. That's all good. But if it's like pronunciation, if it's, and I know I've said this before with like people who have kids where they're like, I always use the example. It's like, hey, Will. It's like, well, his name's actually William. Okay, sure. But the kids too. He's not going to care. You know what I mean? Like, this is stupid. Like, we don't need to correct someone over that. So again, that's just my thing. I don't like when people do that, especially when it's an unnecessary thing. It's dumb to me. So
especially when they throw the word actually in there. Actually.
100%. Well, actually, shut up. Just shut up. I'm like right now regretting having this conversation with you. And like I said, it's worse if it's someone off to the side. It's like, well, actually, can I chime in? Mm-mm. You may not chime in. You were not part of this conversation for a reason. Stay over there. I don't like it. I just don't see the point.
Josh is getting all fired up over here now. You were as fired up as I was about the murder scene that I was describing.
Absolutely not. That's not true at all. Actually, I'm not.
Actually, it wasn't a murder scene. It was just road rage.
It could have been. It was heading that direction, but Deb got out of there.
No, or I held off and I backed off.
And you had backup. You had your guy with you.
I had backup, yes.
Very nice.
Although it wouldn't have happened if I wasn't following him. So it's good.
Well,
I'm just kidding. At the end of it, he was like, "Are you trying to get me to fight old guys? Like what the heck?" And I'm like, "It's not my fault. He's the one."
Actually, I am. I want to see what you're made of.
Actually,
Can you imagine? It's just like this, it's like this like step system where it's like, okay, we're gonna start with the old guy, see if this guy can handle an old man, and then later you cut off someone else and start road rage or road wrath with it a little bit, bet like more in shape person, and then pretty soon at the end of it, if he keeps beating these people like a video game boss, at the very end, you're like cutting people off in front of like an MMA gym. It's like, let's see if you can handle this guy.
Not a bad idea.
All right, sorry, buddy. Good luck.
Test number 1. See what I can come up with. Test number 2.
There you go.
Okay, do you want me to do my next one?
Sure.
Okay, my third one. I feel like I've said this before, but when I had to go back and look at my notes too to make sure I didn't repeat anything. But it's simple. Extremely judgmental people. I don't know. I just
Sure.
like
A good one.
yeah, I don't know. I can't think of a specific recent, like anytime we do these pet peeve episodes, it's something recent has happened or I've experienced or witnessed it. And that's why it's on my list because it's like kind of,
I
you
have
know,
noticed.
list. I always have stories.
It's never like, oh, like 3 years ago. It's always like 3 minutes ago.
It's like, actually, it just happened. I don't know, just I mean, we all judge, right? That's why I put the word in extremely judgmental people because
Sure.
we're all, we all do a little bit of it. And, we make fun of people, like we'll roast people and, we'll roast each other and stuff. But
I do it every week here.
yeah, what?
I
Me
do it
too.
every week on this podcast. So yeah.
But it's, yeah, I don't know. It just, when someone is just like, like, I, I don't know, maybe just judging someone by like what they're wearing, something silly by what they're wearing, how their hair is cut, how I don't know. And I'm just like, I don't like,
Has this
I
happened to you? Like, was someone judging you about your haircut? A recent
sure.
haircut?
Just got my
Which we talked about last time. Deb said she was going to get her haircut. She cut it. There
did.
we go. She followed through with it. But yeah, did someone say like, I don't know if I like that cut?
It's like that 2 inches that you cut off those just looks awful now.
Yuck. Yeah.
I don't know. I guess no specific examples, but just people who are extremely judgmental. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think it is interesting if you look, exclude the first one because the first pet peeve that you presented was an outlier for sure. It's a little different. But your second one, the one you just did about the teaching thing,
Yeah.
those two things are kind of related. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess like coming in and assessing the scene and judging and putting in your 2 cents that no one asked for. It's
Right. Right. So it is interesting. So it's clear that that type of thing bothers you for sure. Cause those like, those two things are very different, but they kind of come from a similar, you can
yeah,
make the case that they're related. That's all I'm saying.
yeah, for sure. And I'm sure I've done it at some point in my life, but
Well, I think everybody has to a certain extent. I think, yeah, this could be a whole different conversation, but I do think there's a difference though. I think there's some people that do it because it's human nature, right? You just do it and it's to say that there's someone that doesn't judge anybody, I think is silly. Like there may be varying degrees of it, but like to say that like, well, I don't judge at all. Really? I don't believe you. I just don't believe you because like you may not realize it, but there's like it may be way less than everybody else, but like I don't think it's possible to just completely not judge anybody. But there's other people that I think there's an arrogance to it, right? And so when they're judging people, it's not just a human nature thing. Like there's something I think deeper inside of them that's causing them to look at people around them and tear them down. It's probably a confidence issue, which we're going to be talking about at some point in the future. And there's a difference. There's a difference. So I think everybody does it, but not everybody does it in a malicious way, if that makes sense.
yeah. Yeah, I think so too. I think some people are just unaware that they're doing it. Yeah.
I think so.
No
Like
one's told.
if I didn't like your sweatshirt or your shirt or whatever that thing is that sweatshirt?
It's like a sweater. It's my
It's like 100 degrees
sweater.
outside. What are you doing?
I wanted to wear it because it says endless summer. And I have
Fair
my
enough. I appreciate your commitment to the messaging. Um, but it's like if I in my mind I'm like that's kind of an ugly shirt. It's not that big of a deal, right? It's like it's just like it's my own taste preference doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Where if I'm like, man, Deb kind of sucks at podcasting, and it's like, well, that's a little bit harsher, and it's a little bit more of it's a more intense judgment because it's not just talking about it's like talking about your skills and ability. You know what I mean? It's not a
yeah.
taste and preference on my part. It's like I'm judging you for what you're capable of doing, and that's I think where you start getting into a weird territory
Yeah.
when there's no
Yeah.
reason for me to really. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I could just say, hey, we're done podcasting and then just not say we're like, I don't want to podcast with you anymore. But like, you know what I'm saying?
Josh is trying to tell me something.
I was trying to be more subtle. I got caught up in the moment.
This is how, yeah. So if
You're
you're
a
new to
great podcaster.
you're new to this
Happy to
podcast,
have you here.
Don't worry, we talk like this to each other all the time.
Yeah. I'm
You'll get
convinced that Deb talks more behind my back. I'm just going to put it out there right now, people. I have nothing to base that off of. I have nothing to prove. Deb's friends, if you know that to be true, just let me know. It's not going to hurt my feelings, but it will confirm that I'm right. But I feel like Deb talks more trash behind my back than she does to my face. I'm gonna drop the mic right there.
Why wouldn't I say it to your face? I'm just a nice person. So if you don't hear it to your face, then that means I'm just not saying anything at all.
I think you're assuming I think you're a nice person. See, there we go. Me being
Not judging
judgmental.
me.
I
I
apologize.
know. Okay, you say your next one. So,
Okay, let's move on. Okay. Okay, so this happened to me a little while ago. And um uh, I'm sure this has happened. So everybody has, their AirPods, they have earbuds in all the time, right? Just walking down the street, all over the place, you see this happening in public places, and which is fine, doesn't bother me. Here's what bothers me. This happened at work the other day. I was walking because during my break, I walk outside, and I was walking, and this woman pulled up, probably about 20 feet from me, and she kind of motioned me over. And in the area I work, there's a lot of different buildings around there. So people are constantly stopping and asking, like, hey, can you tell me where this building is or where this company is located? So it's not an uncommon thing. But I go over and I hear her saying something. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. What was that? And she's like, so she's talking on her headphones. And I'm like, oh, okay, sorry. And then she looks at me again. She asks a question. I'm like, okay, are you talking to me now? Or are you talking to the headphones? And she's like, I'm like, okay. And so she asks a question, but then halfway through her question, she stops and starts talking to the person on the phone. And like, and then I say something like, I answered her question. I'm like, she's like, I'm talking to this person. Like, I don't know who you're talking to. Are you asking me? And she's like, she finally asked me a question. And then midway through my sentence, she starts talking to the person on the phone, which made me mad because I don't like being interrupted over stupid stuff. And so like, what are we doing here? So my pet peeve is I don't like it when someone has their AirPods in and you can't tell if they're talking to you, if they're talking to the person on the phone, or if they're trying to do both. If they're trying to do both, that makes me upset because I'm like, just tell one of us to stop. Just hold on.
Yeah.
And let me finish this thing with this person. And then but like when they try to do both, I'm like, what are we doing now? Because I'm like, I'm more frustrated when you try to ask me a question. This is silly.
Oh my God, that's so funny. So me and Deb do that to each other all the time.
Oh my
I
gosh.
want to say she does it more because like we'll be at work and I don't really have my AirPods at work, like when we're in our office. Because some like one of my coworkers, she has hers on just to kind of like when she makes parent phone calls, it's just easier. Like who wants to hold
Sure.
their ear? I get it. I do the
Sure.
same. I forgot my AirPods when I went to summer school today for 7 hours, and I was pissed because
I
then when
would
I
be
answer
too.
phone calls, I have to like, it's easier just to have your AirPod in, and so and that way you can multitask. But so many times Deb will be on the phone, and our desks face each other, and she's talking, and then she'll all of a sudden pause and then she'll say my name and I'll look up and she's looking at me and I'm like, did you just ask, are you talking to me now? And she's like, yeah. And she asked me a question and I go, and I'll answer it. And then she'll keep talking and I'll look at her. I'm like, okay, are you still talking to me? Or are you just back on your phone? And she'll shake her head and point to her ear. And I'm like, well, and then I'll go back to being on my computer and she'll do it again. I'm like, delete, you have to just, I don't know if you're talking to me. And so,
That's what I'm saying.
and so, but
It's
yeah,
the worst.
yeah, mostly people, yeah, mostly my friends and they'll put one finger up, like, hang on, and they'll point to their ear and just be like, hang on. And I'll be
Which
like,
is
okay, we'll
much
finish.
appreciated.
Right. And then finish the conversation, hang up, and then talk. But Delee will try to talk to me and the person she's on the phone with at the
It's
same
the worst.
time. Yeah. Delee, just talk to me when you're I can't
Come
do that.
on, Deb. What are we doing?
I'm sure I've done that to her before. I'm sure, and to my other friends. So I'm sure I've done it too. Trust me, there's a lot of pet peeve. Like I am the
Sure.
actual problem here sometimes with these pet peeves. With all the people who we have to at the end when we read them. Oh my God, I'll tell you which ones that I'm like, oh, that's me. Sorry, I'm the pet peeve. But yeah,
Ooh.
I do that sometimes too. It's really funny.
Well, there you go. Yeah, it drives me nuts. And the other thing about that too is when someone does that to you and you start answering the question that you think they're asking you, They look at you like you're crazy. Like, what? Can't you see I'm on the phone? No, you're not making that very clear. So no, I'm not crazy. You're crazy. And I'm offended by you even like even insinuating that I might be the crazy one here. So that's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
Drives me
Yeah,
nuts.
that's a good one.
Thanks for
Nice.
letting me get that off my chest. Feel better.
Good. This is very cathartic. Nice, right? All of this. Okay.
Maybe, or it's making me more upset. I can't tell. Go ahead.
I'm ramping us up. Okay. Okay. Number 4. This again, it is a pet peeve, but it's also it makes me like angry. Another, this one makes me angry more so, I guess. But it's,
Oh,
and it makes me like upset. But so I wrote, when people walk their dogs on the sidewalk or asphalt in the scalding heat very slowly because they're on their phone. So like I've seen people, and I get it, you have, trust me, like Molly was with me for 12 years, and in the heat of summer I would come home and it's 5 o'clock, 100 degrees, and I'm like, Molly, we gotta go outside, we gotta go pee, like you need to go to the bathroom. But I'm not out here walking her for how God knows how long on my phone while she walks with her paws on the hot cement and asphalt, and I'm not even looking or paying attention. Like I just see that. So I've seen it. So I don't know why I've seen it so much lately. And it's mostly younger kids, like teenagers or whatever. I don't know if that's their like daily chore or whatever, but I've seen adults do it too, on their phone with the dog leash. And because they're on their phone, they walk slower. I do the same thing. If I look down and I'm answering a text, I start to walk slower. I yell
sure.
at my teenage students for about it all the time. I'm like, get off your phone. You're walking too slow. You can't do both at the same time, clearly. And so I don't know. I just don't think people, we have shoes on. I don't know that people realize how that feels on their dog's paws. So I'm always like, put your hand on the ground. Not, I don't just go up to random people and say this, but like I would like to, and just say, put your hand on the ground. If that's too hot, like get your dog on the grass. Like I'm not saying don't take your dog out, like, but put it on the grass or let it sit in the shade or let it walk in the shade or something. Cause yeah, it's just, that's a pet
Yeah.
peeve.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. And that's yeah, that's one of those crazy things. And I'll take it one step further, not to piggyback off of your pet peeve, but see, I don't even think it's an issue of just the phone walking slowly. I think it's crazy to walk your dog in that on the cement or the asphalt in heat like that, whether you have your phone or not, because it's crazy hot. I actually feel like if you want to do that, then you have to walk barefoot with your dog,
Yeah.
and then again, take it one step further than just putting your hand on the ground. It's like, well, if you can handle it, then sure, your dog can too. But like, I just don't think people, because I mean, you've seen the pictures before of the dog's paws and how they can get pretty messed up, and the dog's not going to complain about it, so you'll never know. But you just have to, and again, going outside with a purpose, if they have to go to the bathroom, that's one thing. But like saying, hey, we're going to go for a 20-minute walk, it's like, this is crazy.
Well, and I learned the hard way. So when I first got Molly, I think I was like 21, like 22. Like this was a long time ago. And
Sure.
she was a rescue dog, and she was already like 3, maybe 4. I'm not sure how old she was when I got her. She had a lot of energy, so I took her on bike rides because she was a cattle dog. And so she would literally pull me on, I'd be on my bike and I'd have her leash and she would pull me, crash my bike a few times, but it worked out because it got her energy out. And then so summer rolled around and I was still doing it, and she's running really fast and whatever, and we're on a bike path, so there's lots of shade. I do remember that because I went back and I felt really guilty, but when it happened, but I'm like, no, there's lots of shade, like whatever, and she's on grass sometimes. But there was one, I stopped at this one area. I can't remember why I stopped. I think I had to tie my shoe or I had to fix something on my bike. So I stopped, and it was on it was asphalt because it was like on a bike trail that like turned into asphalt, and there
Sure.
was no shade, nothing. And I stopped, and then so she had to stop too. And I at one point I looked over and she's like dancing around on the asphalt, picking up her paws, and she's actually crying, like
Hmm.
whimpering. And I looked at her and I'm like, what are you doing? And then it clicked, and I'm like, oh. And so I pushed her on the grass because the grass was right next to us,
Sure.
kind of moved her, and I was like, get on the grass. And then she stopped and she sat, and then she was fine. And then I put my hand to the ground and I was like, holy crap. I was like, oh my God. Like
Hmm.
so I learned it quickly in like
Sure.
having her. And so I just remember that, I guess. So obviously she was fine. No, like her paws were fine, but she told me, she was trying to tell me that and I see these I can't watch the Instagram stories where people video other people walking their dog and their dog is doing the same type of dance, like
Mhm.
right, and their owner's not paying attention. Like I can't watch it. I'm like, these people, are you joking? Take your
Yeah.
shoes off if you walk on that asphalt. Don't make your dog do it, or get your dog some shoes. I know that's like looks silly, but if you're gonna do that, then put some shoes on your dog. Not even joking.
Yeah.
So
No, I'm with you. That's a good pet peeve for sure.
yeah,
Yeah. These are very dark pet peeves, Deb.
I know. I don't know what's wrong with me today. I don't know.
I
Maybe
came into this podcast thinking, this will be a fun light one. Mm,
I know. And then here I come coming in hot with mine. I don't know. Maybe because it's summer. So, and I've seen
sure.
again, my pet peeves, I write them because they're either recent or they have something to do with one another. And that's what I've seen lately. And I am just like, you guys,
Hmm.
it's 100 degrees out and it's 4:30. Why are you walking your dog on a stroll? Like
Right.
strolling your dog around on the street, like crossing the street.
Hmm.
Why aren't you at least running with your dog to get them across the street quicker or picking your dog up? I just can't stand it. So anyway, I don't
Good one.
mean not cranky or anything, I swear. I just had to say it somewhere and I
No,
want to use
you're passionate about it. You're passionate about
your platform to say it. Can't stand it.
welcome to Connectable. That's what we do here. So there you go. Happy to
Yeah.
provide the platform for you.
Okay.
Okay. So mine, again, I'll bring some levity to this because it's not nearly as serious.
My next
Um,
one's not serious, I promise. That was it.
no, it's
It was
okay. Hey, if
the
you want
murder
all of them to
one.
be like that, go for
Yeah.
it.
The murder one and the dog one were I'm just gonna like I want to strangle somebody. Like, yeah, not really, but you know what I'm saying. But everything else is fun and lighthearted. So go ahead.
We
I'm
started
good.
off where Deb almost got murdered, and now she's talking about murdering other people. Full circle. Look at that. All right, we'll move on. So my next one, and I don't know if this happens to you, Deb, from the teacher perspective. It might be a little bit different with PE, but this still happens to me now if I ever go to any kind of training. But back when especially when I was in college, this was more so in college, and then now out of graduating from college, going to different trainings and things like that. I can't stand it when the presenter or the teacher or the professor is getting ready to wrap up the lesson or their class, and they ask if there's any questions, and there's that one person that wants to ask a question. Now here's the problem: most of the time their question doesn't really help or affect the other people in the classroom. It's a very personal question which they have every right to ask after everybody else is given freedom, but they don't do that. And they raise their hand. It's like, oh, and I don't know if that person's unaware of how much people hate their guts in that moment. Because if they're sitting in the front of the class, which they are most of the time, everybody else behind them is throwing laser eye darts at the back of their head. Because they're like, why did you do that? We saw the door open, we could feel the fresh air, we were on our way to freedom. And you asked that one question. And let's be honest, it wasn't that good of a question. It was kind of dumb. Why did you do that to the rest of us when we were so close to freedom? Don't do that. Wait until everybody's gone. Ask your question privately, because no one appreciates your question. They don't like you in that moment. They don't like you. They have disgust in their hearts for what you're trying to do. And so I personally hate when that happens. Now, are they a better student and a better attendee than me? Probably. But at that moment, we've been sitting there for a while, especially those 3-hour classes in college, like the one day a week, 3-hour classes. We've been here. It's like there's 2:55. We have a chance to get out 5 minutes before class is supposed to end. This is beautiful. And you had to ask a question that's going to take that last 5 minutes. And now we spent the full time here. Why did you do that? Drives me nuts.
Yeah, that's like what happens in our staff meetings at work.
It's the same thing. They
Like,
don't grow out of it, Deb. They don't grow out of it. They just get older and the environment changes, but they still do the same thing. It's like, why are you punishing all of us?
no, exactly. Wait until everyone leaves and then go ask your personal question to that person. And we don't need to be involved at
Yeah,
all.
that's what I'm
It's not,
saying.
yeah. Sometimes it's like kind of drama. So sometimes it's kind of, if I'm not pressed to go home, like if I don't have something to get to, which So sometimes I'm like, oh, this is like juicy. And I'm looking at my coworkers like, they just ask that? What?
You're in the back like, hey, let's hold on. Let's hear them out.
Yeah,
Give them
like
a chance. I know we all wanted to strangle them, but maybe they've got a point here. Is that you in the back?
yeah. That's me being nosy. Me and Kaylin and I and my other coworker and my friend, we're
There you
both
go.
what? We're like texting each other, like, but did they just really ask that? Like, yeah, that's Kaylin. We're the worst. The PE teachers are the worst students. We're
See,
up
I'm not
there.
even a PE teacher, but I could be for that reason alone. I'm like, but here's the difference. I don't care about the drama part of it. I'm like, that's great. Send it to me on Twitter or Instagram or Reddit, somewhere else. Not now. Not now. Trash do what everybody else does. Trash the person online. That's what everybody else wants to do. Just do it there. You know what I mean? Start one of those random, high school pages on Instagram, which we get followed by every once in a while. There's like, this random high school, like, they have the different names for it. It's like, I don't know, some school in the like drama. And it's like, hey, if you got any gossip, juicy gossip, post it here. We actually get a decent amount of that.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it is. I'm like, well, follow us here for? Hoping Miss McCollum says something about you. It's like, I can't stand this kid, this kid, this kid.
Jokes on them. I say that off camera.
Boom. There we go. So yeah, anyways, that's my fourth one.
Okay. Well, that was a good one.
Thank you.
Not so often. My last one is so when I look up like a recipe, not that I've done that lately, but like I have before, like just look up like how to make this, or maybe I stumble upon an article and it has a recipe that looks good and they call it a simple recipe. First of all, it's a page and a half of like talking about the history of it, blah blah blah. I scroll down, I'm like, no, I don't care, like show me the recipe. Simple recipe. And then it contains like 15 ingredients of things I will never use again. I can't even pronounce it. I have no idea what the hell it is. I go and look it up. It's so expensive. I'm like, what? Like, I don't know, ingredients that like a dash of turmeric, a sliver of Jarlsberg cheese. I don't know, just saying things like 2 teaspoons of grapeseed oil. I don't know. I'm just listing that. Like, I'm like, what? I'm not going to use, I have to get all of this just to, so anyway, that's, I don't know why I thought of that one, but that one.
That's a great one. I could not agree more. It's
Yeah.
I mentioned something similar on a previous episode. And maybe I mentioned it to you. It's similar where it's like when they have these weird sizes where it's like, okay, a can of tomato sauce is normally a certain amount. And this recipe calls for, 12 ounces and a can's actually 13. It's like, seriously, you could have just bumped it up one more. So it's a little different than what you're saying, but it still has to do with recipes and the measurements. And yeah, it's a pain. I like that one.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, very good. I do appreciate and like how you preface by saying every once in a while I do try a recipe. I do appreciate that because I think it's well established on this podcast that cooking is not your thing.
No, not an elaborate recipe. I'm good with like a 1 ingredient thing. Like I've been making a lot of ground beef lately. That's easy. You just throw it in the pan. Add some salt, pepper.
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on that. I think we could. Good for you. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to judge you. I don't even know why. I think in my mind I had you. I was expecting you to say something different. You know what I mean? But I was like, I've been making ground beef lately. Like, that's okay, good for you.
That's cooking for me. That's my cooking level.
You know what? You're still eating. You're healthy. That's the main thing, right? So, all right, I'm gonna keep it moving. So, okay. So my last one is, so I have a last one, then I have one that I wanted to mention. This is not for me at all, but it's just something else I want to mention. But my last one for me personally is the person who has to one up your story, right? I've encountered someone specifically that comes to mind. He got into some legal issues. We're not going to go into that. Turns out he was not a good guy, but he would always do that, where I'll never forget. I remember I was talking to this guy and he was one of those guys that's like, I don't even really know why I'm talking to you. Like, you kind of creep me out. to begin with. I don't really trust you, but here we are having a conversation. And he was just asking about some of the stuff I was doing. And at that time, I was right in the middle of doing all the character combine stuff. And I said, "Oh, we have this incredible speaker. He's a good friend of mine, Kevin Bracey. He's emceeing the event. He's big in this area. He's all over at schools. He's incredible. One of the best I've ever seen." He's like, "Oh yeah, that's cool." He's like, "Yeah, I was doing an event one time, and we got Michael Jordan to speak." What?
What? Shut up.
What?
What?
And at that point, I'm like, well, everything I thought about this man is confirmed. This guy's crazy. I'm like, oh, cool, man. He's like, yeah, he was a great guy. Like, that's not what I've heard from a lot of people. I heard he's pretty intense, but good for you. I'm glad he liked you. But just people when they one up the story, it's
Mhm.
just it's crazy. And I've always like anytime we're having conversations with someone or I'm having a conversation with someone, I always am cautious. Like if we're going back and forth and we're telling stories, I always hate even if I in my mind think, did I try to one up their story on accident? Like, ugh, that was yucky. I don't want to. Hopefully, I didn't do that. Hopefully, they didn't take it that way. But I think there's usually a clear line drawn between who does it on accident and
Yeah.
who just. In fact, I heard a comedian on a podcast recently saying that they're like, there's this guy in this comedy circle that was known for doing it. He wasn't a comedian, but he was like a manager, or he was somebody that was kind of part of the group, part of the tour group, and all that stuff. So, but he had this horrible habit of one upping people. And so one time they were going out for drinks at a bar, and all of these guys, with the exception of him, got together and said, "Hey, uh, let's just keep during this conversation, let's just keep one upping the story, and let's just throw out the most wild stuff and see how far he's willing to go with it." So they're like, "Oh man, I remember I got into this crazy car accident and the engine exploded." He's like, "Oh man, I had this thing where two of my cars," and it's like, "Oh, that's crazy." So they're making up these stories, right? And so one of the guys finally is like, he's like, they're passing these stories back, and he's like, "I killed a guy." He's like, and the guy's like, he's like, "Oh, he's like, I need to go to the bathroom, but I killed a guy too. I'll be right back. I'll tell you the story." He's like, "What?" And they said it was just the most wild thing. It's like, this guy he can't help himself. He'll one up everything. And
Great.
so it was just so funny hearing that story and hearing those guys talk about, how they were doing that to this guy. But yeah, it's just it's a weird thing. I don't know why I mean, I think there's something inside that person that just it's a need to feel relevant, right? It's a need to feel
Yeah.
important and all of that. But still, it's just like, man, you don't do this. Don't do this. And I'll say this too. It's it's really weird, and it gets really weird where I've been in situations where, guys, girls hanging out together, and you have a guy that's clearly one upping the story to impress the opposite sex. I'm like, okay. We're just looking at like, well, why are you telling this story? Like, we weren't impressed. The person you're trying to impress, they're not impressed either. But like, it was clear that that's what you were trying to do. I hate that. Drives me nuts.
I'm just still laughing at him saying, I killed a guy. And he's like,
It was
I
who
killed
was
a
it? It was, I don't know if you know
guy.
Nate Bargatze, the comedian,
Oh,
stand-up comedian. He's huge, but he's got a very like just a very mellow, even keel personality. And so if you know him, if you've seen his stand-up and you hear the story, he wasn't one that was telling the story, but he was the one that said, "I killed a guy." And so if you know him, that you can picture him saying that, it makes the whole thing even better. It's so funny.
that's so crazy.
And like I said,
Yeah.
the guy's like, "Yeah, I got to go to the bathroom, but when I come back, I'm gonna tell you my story. I killed a guy too." I'm like, what?
Just that's insane.
Yeah,
Well, I'm like, there's something there, right? If someone is
sure,
constantly doing that, like,
sure,
need for validation, like, I mean, it's, obviously that's like way too obvious if you're doing that all the time. Sometimes I'll like chime into a story and relate to it and kind of say like a similar, like, oh my gosh, like one
different.
time, yeah, right. But like, yeah, there's some people out there that I think I can think of that might do that. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the one uppers, the name droppers, one uppers. Yeah. Is that a different category? The name droppers?
the name droppers is tough. Is
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna go into that because I have a story. I'm not gonna go into it. But that happened to me one time. I'm like, I think you mistook me for someone who would care. So You picked the wrong person. I'm very sorry.
Oh man. Yeah. Yeah.
So you did your five, right?
I did my five. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So before we jump into and before we get out of here, um, and before we jump into the ones that were submitted to us, so sometimes just for inspiration, I will look at like I'll Google pet peeves, right? Just to see, like, especially as I'm getting further down my list, I'm like, I wonder if there's anything else that bothers me. And so if nothing's sticking out, then I'll look at these lists. One thing that I've seen quite a bit on this list that I personally have never encountered, but like I see it on almost all of these lists that I've seen is the pet peeve of someone who talks in third person. Who are these people that you're spending
What?
time with? It's like, Josh loves the podcast and Josh has his pet peeve list. And Josh, like, who are these people that you're talking to? Like, have you met anybody that talks in third person like that?
I'm really trying to think, and no, like not seriously, no.
Like, can you
No.
imagine, like, run this back and you're telling your story about almost getting run off the road. And it's like, Deb almost got run off the road, Josh. And Deb was about to fight that man. Like, Deb, you are Deb. Why are you saying a story like this? This is silly. But that's
I
been like that pet peeve is on so many lists. I'm like, who are you talking? Like, who is this person that you're hanging out with?
do you know someone who does that, who talks in the third person?
No, absolutely not. Like it's like they're hanging out with like George Foreman. I think didn't George Foreman do that? Like he would talk in third person. I don't know. That's like something like I don't know. This is wild to me. I've never heard anybody talk in third person in a serious way.
The only time I ever hear my friends say that is, let's say we're all in a room together. Let's say, it's you, me, and Rachel and I are talking about you in front of you. And we Josh, da da da, Josh, da da da, and then you would chime in, well, Josh, da da da, just to kind of be funny.
Yeah,
Like
but to be funny is different.
to be funny is different, yeah, than to like seriously talk about yourself in the third person. It's
It would be
interesting.
weird.
My
It's like
3-year-old.
going to talk to Rachel. It's like, hey, Josh just did a podcast with Rachel or Josh or Josh. See, now it's all, yeah. That's why you can't talk in third person because it throws you off. Josh just did a podcast with Deb. She's like, why are we doing this? She's like,
So
you talk a lot and it annoys me, but now this is really annoying because you're talking about yourself in third person.
yeah, my 3-year-old nephew talks about himself in the third person. That's because he's 3. But
Well, that's a good point. I guess that would be the one exception, but it's different too. Like if I'm talking to my kids, it's like, hey, daddy said this, or hey, daddy's going to do this. Like then you're talking about yourself in the third person, but there's a very specific purpose behind that.
exactly.
I don't
So
go. I don't tell that story to other people. It's like, hey, daddy said this, because then it's the conversation takes a different turn.
but
Yeah,
oh, those are good ones. Okay.
yeah. So, anyways, it was not mine, but it's just a weird one that it keeps coming up. I'm like, I don't know who these people are that you're hanging out with.
We're gonna run into someone now. I'm gonna run into someone who's gonna talk about themselves in the third person. I have a
I hope
feeling.
I hope when you start school again, I hope your students do.
I will
No,
call their mom or whoever they live with and say this. They got to stop.
this has got to stop.
They
All
can.
right. So should we do this real quick? Because I know you have a ton to run
Yeah,
through. I only have 3. You want me to just run through mine real quick?
sure. And then
And then
I'll rattle off mine really quick. They
that's
just
what I was thinking. Yeah.
no, they're
We'll
so
end it with yours. Okay. So the first one is from Mr. Kenny Hill, one of our previous guests, who's an ultra runner who completed since between this podcast and when he was on, completed an ultra marathon. So good for you, Kenny.
cool.
Congrats, man. His is when people call their pets their kids, then call their parents grandparents. Sure. So basically it drives him nuts. When the pets thing is funny because I have heard that.
It's not the same, but yeah.
It's not the same, but yeah, I mean, for some people it might be, but that is funny because I mean, Kenny has a few kids, so I can understand probably in the craziness of life with all his kids, and you hear someone's like, "Well, my kids, my pet," it's like, nope, doesn't count because they're not causing all this chaos like the kids would, so you don't get to call them that. I get that. Let me see. Okay. This one's from Josh Sapansky, also another one of our previous guests. When grown adults always want to discuss celebrity drama. Makes sense too.
I Yeah.
It's not my thing. I'm with you. I'm with you, Josh. I'm not a big fan of that. Um, do I do it sometimes? Sure, I do. But for the most
That's
part, I can't just do it all the time.
that's more of a girl. I feel like that's more of a girl thing because it's like a reality TV show type thing.
I don't like reality TV shows. So that plays into it.
Like the drama. I think it could be a girl thing, maybe not to be sexist or anything, but my
But
friends and
you
I
enjoy the celebrity drama.
sometimes. So not all the
You love
time.
the Kardashians, don't you?
I like the drama of the Kardashians. Yeah. And I
That's
think
it seems
they're
like that's what Josh is
hilarious. I
saying.
think they're hilarious. I don't care what anyone says. Their people are like, they're horrible and they're da, da, da. And I'm like, look, I don't care. They don't really affect my life
Sure.
personally, not yet at least. So like I don't know. They can go off
Not
and do
yet. I like that. Dreaming big.
so
Maybe we'll
anyway,
give one of them a massage someday.
yeah. Yeah. Maybe who knows? Maybe they'll come on the podcast. Who knows?
That would be awesome.
No
We
one's
would really make it if that happened.
right.
Yeah. All right. I got one more. Let me just double check. Let's see. Okay. So this is from Coach Alex Zavala. Always appreciate the support, Coach. He was on my home team podcast a little while ago. He's a really good dude. His is the sound of someone eating with their mouth open. OMG, it drives me crazy. I'm with you, Coach. I'm with you. And Coach, if you had the opportunity to do this, if that was one of your athletes, you should make them run for that nonsense because yeah, I'm with you. That drives me nuts and I do not like it either. So three solid ones for me.
Those are good ones. Okay, I'll run through my very quickly.
All right, let's go. I'll make some mental notes for which ones to comment on. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So our FOP, our friend of the podcast, Paul Marshall, said,
"What's up, Paul?
When you let somebody merge and they don't acknowledge with a wave."
How do you have any thoughts about merging, Deb?
Like the jerks they are. I know, right? Hey, this is me trying to pass someone legally and swiftly. Okay. But yeah, when you let someone in, they don't like wave or anything. It's like, be nice. I agree.
Man, Paul, I don't think you realize how timely that one would be.
Right? Road wrath. And then Alicia Schwinn, aka my sister, my older sister.
Hello, sister. Not my sister. My sister's Ashley.
Yeah. My sister. She said, my wonderful husband loves to leave all the drawers and cabinets open after unloading the dishwasher.
Ooh. Hey, as a married person, you know a shot's coming when they're like, my wonderful spouse. Like, ooh, here it comes. Comes the haymaker.
Oh, I was cracking up.
Well, you've spent a decent amount of time at their house. Have you witnessed it?
Not that act necessarily. I don't think so. I'm trying to think, but I'm laughing because I know my brother-in-law. He's awesome. Like I love my brother-in-law so much. He's so funny. So I'm just laughing and leaving everything open. And then my sister's like so nice. So they're such a cute couple. So that's why like that whole thing just cracked me up.
So she brought it to the pod instead. It's like, I can't say this to his face, but I'll make fun of him on the podcast.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yeah.
Your sister is super nice.
She's way nicer than I am.
So let's just be real. What happened to you?
Only red family, like all
That's
the other
right. That's right.
Happened either. So there's lots of questions about where I came from. That's for sure.
All right. Actually, I saw a funny saw a funny picture that kind of was similar to what you just said. I'm not gonna try to explain it because you kind of need the visual to see it, or to understand it. But anyways.
Oh, okay.
I shouldn't have said that. Kind of brought that whole thing to a halt. I'm sorry. Huh? No, it wasn't a meme. It was like a almost like one of those like Sunday like morning paper cartoons.
Oh.
Like was it Far Side?
Oh,
you know those cartoons?
Yeah.
I saw it on Facebook. It was very funny. It kind of had to do with that. But
you see again, you have to send it to me.
I saved it. I'll send it to you.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. All right. It doesn't affect anybody else. I'm sorry. Again, that whole little sideshow was my fault. I apologize, everybody.
We go on rabbit holes. I'm supposed to rattle these off quickly. No, I will my friend Kaylin sent me a bunch. I will rattle off those. I'm going to do it without skipping a beat, but I have a few more from the Instagram messages. So, Jace Angelo, he's a trainer at Title. He said, when people I read this and I was like, bro, sorry, that's me. I'm the problem. He said, when people don't pay their debts or return borrowed items without having to ask for it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I was like, that's me. Sorry. Not the paying their debt part. I always have an IOU list, like monetarily, of what I owe my friends, and I Venmo them as soon as I can. I do that, I will say. But I mean, books. I had Christine's Twilight books forever. There's some books sitting on my laptop sitting on some books right now that these are not my books. I have 3 of my friends' sweatshirts in my closet right now. Like, I don't return things.
Oh no,
Financially, I
yeah,
will
we're
pay
very
back
well aware.
financially. I will do that, but if you give me an item and let me quote borrow it and you got to come back and get it. It's not getting it back.
So it's a weird thing to say, but cash is safe.
Sorry.
You can exchange cash with them, and it's all debit's all good. Physical items, not so much.
Give it to me.
All right,
Um,
hold on. No, and hey, just Jace is awesome. I had the chance to meet him one time. Hey man, when are you going to come on the podcast?
I know we wanted him on.
I've sent him a message before, a long time ago. So Jace, if you're listening to this, we want you on the podcast. We've had
He's
Kim on the podcast,
I know Kim came on. He's
not this
shy.
podcast, but she was supposed to be on a little while ago, but some scheduling things happened.
We had her on character combine.
Yeah, and then she tried to get Jace to take her place, but he was not able to. So
Yeah.
that was about, I think it was like last year. But anyways, I have to call you guys out on the podcast, but we would like to have you on the podcast. But anyways,
There you go.
that's my pitch.
And he heard it. My good friend Kelly
Hello,
said hearing people chew. So kind of like
Coach
what
Zavala.
kind of what Alex said, the
Yep.
people hear people chew. My thing personally is when they chew and talk at the same time. Now I've done that before, but like I'll try to finish chewing and before I talk, but if it's something like pressing where I got to answer right away because I'm all excited about it, I'll at least like cover my mouth or something. I try not to, but like when people like chew and talk with their mouth open and chew.
But see, that's different. Like, I don't think there's a problem if you do one of these things where you're covering your mouth as you're saying it because you're taking precautions. If you're just talking like this, you're gonna fire off shots. Food particles are gonna fly out of your mouth, and so you're not taking you're not putting the safety on. You know what I mean? And so you got to do that for sure. So that doesn't bother me if someone does one of these things. If someone's just like, "Hey, I'm gonna give a presentation with a whole cheeseburger in my mouth," it's a problem. So I'm with you on that as well.
There you go. So that was Kelly. And then my other good friend, Shauna, said,
Hello, Shauna.
People stopping in the middle of an aisle. And then she also said people chewing with their mouth open. So she gave me 2, but people, and she called me and she's like, did you like that one? Was that a good one? And she explained it to me. She's like, I just can't stand when people just stop right in the middle of an aisle and are blocking the entire section. They just
Yeah.
stop like in a grocery store.
I'm with Shauna on that. And Shauna, I'm just gonna talk to you directly right now. Let me know. Tell Deb if this bothers you too. And I think I've mentioned this before, not in this pet peeve episode, but other things. When you're at like the mall, specifically at the mall, and you have these dum dums that decide that like a group of like 6 people want to all walk together, but instead of tightening up the line, they all spread out. And it's like they're basically holding hands across, like playing Red Rover. And it's like that drives me nuts too because they walk so slow and you can't get past them. So kind of it's the same type of person. That person will also stand in the middle of an aisle and block you. So let me know. Let Deb know if you feel the same way. But that drives me nuts. I'm with Shauna on that one.
Yeah, same Z's. I will try to politely just like walk past them, but like me and my friends will shoot each other some looks like, what is this? Are they serious? Why? What are they doing? Yes,
Just give them a
exactly.
shoulder bump.
Right.
What's up?
Here's a good one. So Christine, my lovely Twilight book friend,
Christine, friend of the, what do you say? FOP?
FOP. She's the friend of the podcast too. Yeah. The FOP. She said people not returning their grocery cart in the parking lot.
Well, I thought she was gonna say the books. I'm like, oh, she's calling you out on your own show. Dang,
Right?
you got a shot. You got a shot, Christine.
Right? She could have. But yeah, I've seen like, when grocery carts are like left on a curb,
Yeah.
whatever, and not putting it back inside the little cart area and just leaving it out in the parking lot for it to hit cars. Or I'll take it a step further, and I've actually tried to park in a parking spot and there's a shopping cart sitting
Ooh.
in the parking spot, just stand right there. And I'm just like, are you serious?
Yep.
I remember. Yep.
I'm with you, Christine, on that one. I don't like it either. And here's the problem too. When people do that, especially because Costco is notorious for that, because Costco, they just put their carts everywhere. And I've done the same thing, Deb. You try to pull into a parking spot, try to get in there, and then some dumb put the cart right there. But part of the problem with it, the bigger issue, the greater issue is it's not just the laziness, but then you're inspiring a whole other group of lazy people to do the same thing. Because they're like, well, if this guy put the cart there, well, I'll do the same thing. And then pretty soon you have this line of cars where you realize one moron started the chain reaction, and then a bunch of other dummies decided to follow. I don't like it. Great call, Christine. That's all I'm trying to say. All that to say is I agree with you.
Yep, exactly. Okay, so those are my Instagram responses. Okay, my friend Kaylin.
Buckle up.
Kaylin needs to be, first of all, Kaylin needs to be a comedian. I mean, I had her on my Not Here to Judge episode about depression, ironically. So she has that. She and I can talk about that.
Sure.
That
could
Kaylin,
make some sense when it comes to stand-up comedy for sure.
right,
But yeah, go ahead.
Exactly. Kaylin, that's Kaylin. So we can't stop. We will be here forever if we stop and talk about each one of these. So I'm just going to rattle off them and you could just pick one that stood out to you if you want, I guess. Okay.
Perfect. Sounds good. 5,
Okay.
4, 3, 2, 1, go.
People that stand too close to you in the checkout line or anywhere in general. People that follow people in parking lots for their spots. Slow people in the fast lane that don't get out of the way. Questions like, what are we doing today? And do we have to? I think she's talking about our teaching job. Loud chewing. When you have to watch the same commercials every break on Paramount Plus. When the tipping options start at 20%. How AirPods die even in their case with a bunch of question marks. They should stay charged with a bunch of question marks. People that judge others for how they spend their time off. Men.
Were those two? I'm sorry. Were those two separate ones, or was it?
Yes, they were separate.
Okay, I was make sure I get clarification. How men judge how you spend your time off. Like that's interesting. You might dive into that one a little bit more. Go ahead.
Men, heavy drinkers that go out.
I can't apologize for all of us, but I do apologize.
Messing up my flow. Let me get my.
All right. Ooh. Pet peeve: someone who messes up my flow.
I mess up my flow. Heavy drinkers that go out of their way to judge stoners. When people ask where I played basketball in college, so she's a volleyball player. She's just really tall. So
understood.
Harsh overhead lighting. And then this is in all caps. Women's clothing sizes. People that only use the gas or the brake, like taking your foot off the gas doesn't slow you down. Heat. Children at breweries, specifically the run around screaming kind. Boys leaving the seat up. Complaining about politics on Facebook. When there's only one checker open and someone is returning or exchanging with no receipt. When you're washing dishes and you get your sleeve a little wet. This one's in all caps. People in public on speakerphone. This one is also in all caps. Spelling my name wrong on like the 4th email we've exchanged, and it's clearly written in my previous response.
Fair.
And here's what we just talked about. Families that take up the entire sidewalk side by side. People that clean their windshields in traffic. That shit goes everywhere. Being blamed for
with the water. I got you. Okay. Yeah.
Being blamed for my entire generation. I gotta stop there. She has a couple others, but
wait, no, why do you have to stop there?
Oh my gosh, she has a couple others. Let's see. Chips and dip, and my chip breaks in the damn dip. When people slam the doors to any car. This is probably an unpopular opinion, but I'm not a fan of hyphenated last names. Like it's just making everyone's life hard.
Fair.
Short stalls that I can see over. And she put, public bathroom stalls that I have to effing straddle the toilet to get in the damn stall. She's really tall. So she's like.
It sounds like it.
The space before the period that is a true mark of someone over 50. So that's Caitlin. Wait, she has more. Oh my gosh, I didn't even see these. Bikers in Davis. When people write 7:00 a.m. in the morning. Here's a good one. People that get on the elevator before people have come off. That's happened to me.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah.
That's happened to me in my apartment. I'm like, what are you doing? What? The door's gonna shut before I even get out.
They got places to go. You're in their way.
And then the sound of soda pouring over ice, especially in a glass cup, it's the clinking. I can't do it. I actually like that sound. So when she said that, I thought that was really funny.
That is funny.
Yeah. Oh, people that talk like the Kardashians.
Okay, I like that.
Whistling excessively. Being in the car with someone that has excessive road rage. Okay, kind of like what I talked about, kind
Was
of.
she the person in the car with your
Yeah.
situation? She was the other person. It's like, hey, I know her.
Yeah. She's like, I know this person.
Yeah,
Hugs from strangers, because I haven't decided if I like that person yet.
fair.
When I park and someone parks right next to me, like there isn't more spaces. People that
That's
ask
tough.
people that ask questions during movies. Okay, sorry, that's me. I'm the problem here. I'm the problem child on that one. I
Got
just
nothing to say here.
yeah,
I'm with you. I'm with you on that one. I've never watched a movie with her, but she's talked about it enough where it annoys me.
yeah. So there you go. I think that's all of them. So there you go. I had to rattle off Caitlin's. Caitlin just went off. I texted her and I was like, "Hey, we're
It's not
talking about."
Kaylin.
She went off, and so I was like, "I'm literally saying all of these on the show tonight." She's like, "Great, go for it."
That's awesome. Well, thank you, Kaylin. That was awesome. That's a great list. I'm going to be real with you though. I feel like some of those are just complaints. I don't know if they're really pet peeves, but I can understand why you have. I think they're valid complaints, but I'm not sure they're pet peeves. Um, but I also wanted to point out. So just two notes I made real quick. The short stalls you can see over, that's tough. I also want to add on. There are some of those bathrooms you go into where the stall is very high. It's like, oh, I feel like you can see my belly button if I sit in this stall right now. This is too high. Have you ever been in one of those?
um.
Like from the floor, like
Oh
it's
yeah. Oh yeah. Like I could like just
like
do.
someone could sit on my lap, like my knees could stick outside the stall, and someone could sit on my knees.
Wait.
It's an exaggeration. I'm just saying the walls of the stall.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Let's
yeah.
not let's
Gotcha.
not
Yeah,
think
yeah.
about this too much. I'm just saying like this stall.
9:30. Okay, it's
It's
past my.
so like the wall is so high that you can basically stick your like if you
Yeah.
wanted to, you can stick your knees
Uh-huh.
underneath.
Yep. Yep.
But
That sounds.
anyways, so I thought that was interesting. But no, the one that there's a couple you had that I thought I feel the exact same way. But the one that does bother me is the sleeves getting wet when someone's washing their hands.
Yeah.
That drives me nuts because I'm somebody that like will pull my sleeves. Like I can't pull my sleeves any higher. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I could turn my sweatshirt into a tank top just to make sure that they don't get wet under the water. But what drives me nuts, and I guess this would be my pet peeve, if I see someone like washing dishes or washing their hands and they don't do that, I'm like what are we doing? Like I get anxiety just watching that. So I'm like, you're gonna get your sleeves wet, and sure enough, they do, and it's like it's all good. I'm like, no, it's not. That's gross. That is gross.
That was a good one. When I read that, I was like, that is a good one. I would have never thought of that, but it's
That is a
true.
good one. You know what? Sorry, Deb. Kaylin, I'm speaking to you specifically. Okay. Along the same lines, this drives me nuts. So when I go to the beach, I refuse to wear like pants at the beach. Like I'm wearing shorts. I'm not going to wear long pants at the beach because the idea of getting the bottoms of my jeans wet, like there's something that bothers me about that. Can't do it. It's the same thing as the sleeve thing. So I don't know if you feel the same way. Ask her for me, Deb. Unless she listens to the podcast, then you can pass your answer on to Deb. But I need to know because that to me is the same thing as the sleeves getting wet while you're washing your hands. Like I don't wear jeans at the beach because that feeling of getting your jeans wet is gross to me.
I've been to Tahoe a few times with Kaylin in like the beach water area. I could tell you she has never worn jeans. So I feel like she would
Let's
agree.
go. I knew it. I knew we were in the same boat here.
If it reminds me of the same like type of pet, like if I'm like when my socks, like let's say it's raining outside and I don't have the proper like boots on or shoes on, and like my shoes get wet and then my socks get wet and then I'm walking in slushy, sloshy
Mm-hmm.
socks and shoes, like that feeling. Like I don't want the bottom of my jeans wet. Same thing.
It's
No.
gross. Yeah, this could be a whole other thing. But yeah, the people wearing I saw a dude the other day wearing jeans in 105-degree heat. What are you doing? They're walking around outside. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I wear like jeans and pants for work because I'm inside. I have to work. It's more appropriate. But when you're outside just chilling, why are you wearing jeans? It is hot, especially here in Sacramento. What are you doing? Bothers
Crazy.
me. Makes me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. Crazy, man. That's good.
All
Got
right,
us
that's all I had to say.
got us all fired up and I'm ready for bed now.
Yeah. Well, that was
Nice.
another round of pet peeves. In a few months, I'm sure we'll do this again and have just as many.
I like that was a super pet peeve episode just because we got other people to chime in too. So we
Yeah.
listed them.
Yeah, we appreciate everybody who chimed in, who shared your pet peeves with us. That was awesome. We got to do more stuff like that for sure. That wasn't even my idea. That was all Deb's idea. So shout out to Deb.
Thanks. Well, Caitlin gave me inspiration because I texted her first and I said, do you have any? Because I was trying to get more ideas because I was trying to think more outside the box and not think of things that has specifically happened to me recently. And then when she went off, I'm like, oh man, these are so good. Like I would
She
love
was
to
ready.
I would love to hear other people's pet peeves. So that's where I got the idea. So yeah, she was ready.
Perfect.
And then
Awesome.
at the end, she said, thanks. That was actually like, I feel better. I like got it off my chest. I'm like, oh, you're welcome.
There you go. Perfect. Well, look at that. We're helping people on this podcast too, not just trying to entertain, but we are helping people get through their day. So look at us go.
One episode at a time.
That's all we can do. Miss Deborah, where can they follow us?
You guys can follow us on Twitter at Connectable Pod, and then on all other social media sites, we are at Connectable Podcast.
Perfect. And Deb, how many of those do you follow us on?
At least one. At least one. It's Instagram. I don't do Facebook. I have Facebook. I've been on from time to time. I don't check it. Do not message me on Facebook and do not ask to be my friend. One day I looked at it just out of curiosity. I looked at my friend request list. I got a bunch. Like, I'm surprised these people still talk to me. I'm like, they probably think I hate them. I have not responded. Like, don't Facebook. It's out there, but I don't check it. And then I stumbled upon my married Facebook that
Ooh.
I cannot delete because I don't have access to that email anymore. It's still there. It's got a picture of me and my ex-husband on the front with my former last name. I sent a screen. It said, friends you may know, and I showed up. And it said Deborah Seliger, and I took a screenshot and sent it to my friends. And I said, "Oh, look!"
I was going to say we should have a guessing game what your last name is, but you kind of ruined that. Dang it, Deb. Maybe we should start Patreon. It's like, hey, if you want access to Deb's married profile, see what Deb was like in the past. $10 a month.
Bunch of powerlifting videos. So at least I have access to that. I'm like, oh,
There's probably somebody out there that would be really into that.
So I do not go on Facebook. I think I follow us on Facebook still. Twitter, I tried with Twitter. I can't.
Are you trying to hurt my feelings? What are you doing? Okay.
I follow us on TikTok. I don't go on TikTok a lot anymore, but I follow.
I've noticed. Yeah. I feel like you should. I mean, when you're on Facebook, just throw us a like every once in a while. You're there anyways.
But I'm not there scrolling. Like I'll just click on it, to be honest, by accident. And then I'll be like, oh, and then I'll see like the red notifications and I'll see the friend request and I'll be like, nope, it's too late. It's been like a year. I'm not responding to these.
That's okay. All I'm saying is you just, search Connectable Podcast and then like.
Go through the profile and go through, and you're going to have like 25 likes one day. Just like, I'm just going to go through and like.
I hope. That's all I wish and dream about. Instead, we're getting one here and there. Help us out. That's okay. I'm just happy you showed up 2 weeks in a row. So nope. I can't push my luck too much. So, all right. Well, it's been a fun episode.
It was good. We'll do another pet peeve one in the future, I'm sure.
Yep. Got a lot of fun episodes that we can do that we should probably run back. Top fives, all those things. Those seem to be good episodes. So
yeah, we'll throw some dating ones here and there. Yeah. Get my dating stories. We'll throw a little bit. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. What we're saying is you're going to get the same thing every single week. It's the same stuff we do every single week, just in a different, way. So come back next week. We're going to have an awesome guest. And there we go. Until next time, we will see you guys later. See you. Thanks for watching the show. If you enjoyed that episode, make sure you like it, share it, and hit the subscribe button to get a new episode every week. We'll see you next time on the Connectable Podcast.